from Texas, Mr. Nehls.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you to all the witnesses that are here today. I want to start posing a question to all of you. In your opinion, does the Cloud Act and the executive agreements we have under it with the UK and Australia sufficiently protect American communications from foreign surveillance? And please explain why or why not. Mr. Salgado. I'll start with you, Mr. Salgado.
Apologies. No, they do not, and for several reasons, but the primary one that I think the UK matter exposes is that they don't do anything to dissuade a foreign government from imposing technical capabilities like we've seen in the UK, but a whole host of other potential efforts to undermine security, backdoors, contaminated apps. There's a whole host of things that a creative investigator could come up with, all that undermine the security of American services, and that would also compromise Americans' data. And the Cloud Act is a framework that we could use to protect that.
I agree with that. We're focused today on the security risks that the Cloud Act actually incents countries that have Cloud Act agreements to demand of U.S. providers. But there's a lot of improvements that could be made to protect Americans. One improvement would be to make it so that the U.S. providers could at least tell their government when they receive an order like the one served on Apple that this has happened. Apple is gagged not only from telling the world it received an order, it can't even tell its home country.
You mentioned there were like 20,000 requests.
20,000 of these.
And we were at 63.
Yeah, it's imbalanced.
Yes.
It's imbalanced.
Thank you. Ms. Wilson.
I would agree with my fellow witnesses. I would just add and reemphasize that the Cloud Act is designed when engaging in executive agreements with these other countries to make sure that these countries have a surveillance regime that respects privacy and other rights. And clearly the UK is not following that here with the TCN. The technical capability notice, it's obviously a huge invasion into privacy. It's breaking all of our security. By targeting end-to-end encryption, it undermines our potential free speech rights because of the way that end-to-end encryption can be used by so many to communicate by opposition groups around the world, by human rights defenders in really tough circumstances. So I'd say that the UK is not really in the spirit of the act at the moment.
Professor?
So this is mostly a law and policy question, but I will pose a technical version of it, which is that in the 1990s, the U.S. government proposed an encryption scheme for digital communications, digital voice communications, in which the keys would be stored with two agencies of the federal government. This did not go over well. It didn't go over well with industry, it didn't go over well with foreign countries, and it didn't go over well with buyers. When AT&T implemented it, the product did not get bought. But now imagine that the UK requires that encryption use keys that are stored with the UK government. As far as I can tell, and the lawyers to my right can correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't see anything in the Cloud Act that would prohibit such a thing. And yet, of course, no American company, no American who has any private business would want to use encryption where the keys are stored with the UK government.
Sure. Mr. Salgado, does the Cloud Act or our agreements under it pose an undue or unfair burden on U.S. companies? Why or why not?
I don't think they impose an undue burden other than that the companies, as Mr. Nogine pointed out, are barred from disclosing these things that are coming to them. And the Cloud Act isn't there to protect them from that, and it is a good vehicle for that, so that they could tell the U.S. government, and really Congress ought to have much more information than is provided through the current reporting mechanism.
Yes, and could the UK's this technical capability notice to Apple aggravate that burden?
It could, and I think it has. I think you see the situation with Apple where they seem unable to comment on this, right?
What happens if other countries now, they'll follow suit with this?
Yeah, that's the problem. It just continues with more and more, and especially if it goes unaddressed by the U.S., that just creates an invitation to continue doing things.
We've got about 25 seconds left. Do you have any recommendations for future executive agreements or amendments to the Cloud Act to lessen that burden on U.S. companies?
I do. There's several of them laid out in my witness testimony, but first and very simply, we should have a declaration in the agreement that network security and cybersecurity is an essential interest, which is a diplomatic term of art, just like free speech and some others, that carries weight with it. And we can also put some in the conditions to get an agreement, some restrictions on the type of technical surveillance capabilities that partner countries would be allowed to provide, among other changes.
Thank you all for being here. I reserve.